Hi, and welcome to the Dr. Z and J.W podcast. I'm J.W. Stewart, a veteran broadcaster and journalist with nearly 30 years' experience. I've worked at ESPN and NBC, and now I teach at the University of New Haven.
And I'm Sheahon Zenger. I started my career as a football coach at Drake, Kansas State, South Florida, and Wyoming, before becoming the director of athletics at Illinois State University, the University of Kansas, and now the University of New Haven. And this is the Dr. Z and J.W podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the Dr. Z and J.W podcast, brought to you by our presenting sponsor, the Pink Clover Foundation. Thank you for joining us again today, as we're available across all of our social media platforms, and our podcast is always available on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Play. Today, our guest is Ayana Duncanson, who got her master's degree and bachelor's degree from UNH, played basketball for the Chargers, and now works for the NFL Players Association. We'll bring Ayana out in just a couple of minutes, but first, Dr. Z, it's been about a week and a half, 2 weeks since we've had a chance to do a show. We've both been a little bit busy. How you doing? How have things been in your life?
Tell you what, doing well. Things are extremely busy. I think the last time we talked, I told you and others, my 3 adult children, 23, 21, and 19, have been with my wife and me here in West Haven, Connecticut, from some grouping of them from May 1 through the end of July. So that's been a lot of fun to have them with us. As you well know, I live on the west shore, it's called West Shore of West Haven. And as a Midwesterner, I've never been a block from the beach before. So enjoyed the heck out of that, while at the same time juggling a lot of really interesting job responsibilities this summer that I've never dealt with before, mainly was resulting from the COVID experience.
And what can you tell us about those and what's transpired the last couple of weeks? Any new updates with regard to that?
Here's what I would say. It's day by day. It's week by week. We're staying on top of it. And what we're really doing is a conference, the NE10, watching what other conferences are doing. The Patriot League came out with a release recently that was very interesting and very much like what we'd like to do. We're watching what the Ivy League is going to do here in the next day or two. At the same time, I stay in touch with my colleagues at the Big 12 and some other conferences to really get a feel for what's going on up and down the ladder. I have friends in Division III, Division II, and Division I. And so really, to quote Ronald Reagan, I think he and his wife one time in a major press conference said, I'm staying on top of it. I think she told him to say, you're staying on top of it. So that's essentially what we're doing.
When you're talking to people, whether it's at the D1 level or D2 or D3 level, are all the conversations basically the same? Are everyone's concerns the same? Or does it vary based on where you are in the hierarchy, if you will, of NCAA athletics?
The heart of the concerns and the initial concerns and the primary concerns are all about young people having the opportunity to play. And then your concerns are wanting your coaches to be able to coach. And from there, you move on to the outer circles of folks that are involved. At different levels, in all truth, the almighty dollar gets involved. And you can guess where that's at play and where that's not. And so that does affect some of the movement in the daily politics, I'd call it, of decisions that are being made or not made, and we're trying to make it work together.
As you said, you have a lot of friends, athletic directors at the highest levels. A lot of them, you've told us a story before, a lot of them have kind of put their toes in the water, so to speak, with regard to social media. This podcast, we call it more new media, right? From our producer, Broccoli Rob Thompson. When you talk to your friends in athletic administration, and you tell them that you're doing a podcast, are any of these guys doing a podcast like you are or not?
Of my friends in athletic administration, I don't know of any that are. And, some of them are involved in the Twitter world, which I am not. I think at the end of the day, you pick what fits you best. And I would rather leave the Twitter world to the experts on campus that do that for a living, and even Dan Rudy in our athletics department, and so on and so forth. This allows you and me and Rob and John to bring on guests like Ayana and give her a platform and a voice. And, whether it be Chris Berman or Ayana or some of the other guests we've had, Miles, et cetera. It's been tremendous. I really enjoy doing that. When you and I agreed to do this, we initially said, it's not about me. It's about us as a group. It's about UNH. It's about the world of athletics and higher education. And let's give voice to that. I struggle with the way in which college athletics has forced some individuals from the realm or role of teacher and coach and educator to really being forced into the entertainment business. And that's what I'm trying to avoid.
Yep. It's a fine line. Sometimes we end up all walking, but you're right. There's a one side of the line you should stay on. You mentioned our podcast crew. You mentioned John Mays, who's our associate AD at UNH and also our executive producer, Broccoli Rob Thompson, and there's you and me. So we have this, this group text. And as I'm telling the story to our audience here, you actually sent a picture about a week or so ago of a sunset, which I thought it was from Waikiki. I mean, it was that beautiful. Instead, that sunset picture you sent to all of us in our group text here at the podcast was indeed not Waikiki, Dr. Z. It was a picture of what?
Well, if I remember correctly, I don't know if it was the video or the picture. It was of what's called Lake Street Beach, which is at the bottom of my street. And I believe my daughter and I had gone down there just for an evening stroll. And we probably took my miniature beagle named Roland. And Roland was getting introduced to the water. He's always been a little bit afraid of it, but if he's going to live by the sound, then he's going to get used to it. And he was having some fun. Unfortunately, he also introduced himself to an elderly gentleman who was walking down the shore a little bit later. And thankfully, he was a dog lover and said it made his day. But for a brief moment, I was a little worried as Roland launched midair at this gentleman's hips.
Yeah. So the photograph of the sunset over West Haven Beach and Long Island Sound could really pass for the sunset over Waikiki. It's that similar, Dr. Z, at least the night that you took the picture.
Yeah, I never get tired of, I'll get home tonight and my daughter will say, hey, Dad, let's go. And she'll run out of the house. She's only here for a few more weeks, barefoot, in her shorts and a sweatshirt probably because it'll cool down. And she'll run down the middle of the street barefoot straight onto the sand. It's a couple minutes away. It's not like we live right there. And I'm hobbling along in my tennis shoes or my flip-flops, whatever I've got on. And, you once you hit the sand, about several decades fall off of you.
Yeah.
And I've got a couple of Jeeps here. One I leave the top off of all the time. It's an older vehicle and just buzz up and down Ocean Ave. And I never get tired of in the morning driving down, usually about 6:30 in the morning, and you see that crystal clear, water just smooth as can be, and go get a coffee from Dunkin', go park by the beach and have a little quiet time to start the day.
Not only are you a true New Englander, Dr. Z, you're now a true Westie as well. So
I'm all in. I'm all in.
I think it's important to note that, again, for those who are maybe just tuning into the podcast for the first time, right? You're from Kansas, so this is new to you. Had you ever seen the Atlantic Ocean before you came here or not?
Well, I coached at South Florida for a year.
But that's on the Pacific. That's on the Gulf Coast side.
Gulf Coast, right? But you'd go over to the other side once in a while. And, vacations, we'd go down to Florida or the Carolinas and things like that. But never, I'll say to my family often, we're doing that. We're on the beach and we're not on vacation. I mean, we can't quite grasp that, we'll be sitting at the local, I've talked about all the restaurants on this podcast, but the dive bar and restaurants right around the corner from us, we'll be sitting out there at a picnic table during this time of loosening up a little bit. And, you might as well be in Tampa or Fort Lauderdale or Miami or wherever it is, as far as I'm concerned. Only, as my wife says, the weather in the summer appears better. People here complaining. It might be around 90 degrees today. Where I'm from, 105 right now.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
A lot more humid.
Yeah.
The one thing I wanted to bring up, I've seen this trending on social media, and we had talked about this going back to December, but like the rebranding of UNH and, why go to school here? Well, one of the many reasons you go to school here is that the beach is in your backyard, or the hashtag I've seen is Connecticut's Coastal University, right? I think Dr. Z, I think it's a perfect way to sell the school nowadays.
Well, I think, when it comes to guys like John and me who just moved here in the last year, folks who are from here take it for granted and overlook some of the things that UNH has. And I can't wait to get our guest's opinion on this. She, went to school here for a number of years. And one, location. When I was out in the Midwest, we recruited young people from the tri-state area all the time. And also throw in Massachusetts. And those four, that gave us a lot of different, athletes around all the different schools I coached at. All of a sudden, we're right here. So I think people overlook sometimes how easy it is to go to school at a place like UNH. It's a stone's throw away from your parents and where you grew up and your family, et cetera. But also, it's a stone's throw away from the city. And it's a tiptoe away from the water. I mean, our student athletes and our students, I now know this because my children are hanging out with them, hang out on those beaches. And we just don't talk about it enough. That's part of their social life. We bring Rob on here at the end. Heck, he and his buddies that played football lived out on the beach, I think more down toward Milford. And while they're going to college, I just can't grasp that. In the summers, I worked on the farm, that in between lifting. That's a far cry from what these young people get to do up here.
No question. Our students and student athletes are truly blessed. We're all truly blessed to be at the University of New Haven and in the West Haven community and the surrounding community as well. As we've said before, it's a hidden gem, and it's one of the best kept secrets around, and it shouldn't be, but it has been. So you mentioned our guest. Our guest today is Ayana Duncanson, who's gone from playing basketball at UNH to working for the NFL Players Association. So she's gone basketball to football. Ayana is also one of our alumni board members. And certainly she can speak to why she came to West Haven and UNH and her whole experiences. Ayana joins us now from the green room from her home down in the Washington, D.C. area. Ayana Duncanson, welcome to the Dr. Z and J.W. podcast.
Hello. Thank you guys so much for having me today.
You're welcome. We're glad that you're here, Ayana. So please tell us about your path. I mean, Dr. Z's kind of mentioned, what the attraction was for a lot of students in this area. I know you're originally from the tri-state area. Tell us where you grew up and what was it that attracted you to UNH and West Haven?
Absolutely. So it was actually so reminiscent hearing you both talk about the beach and all that fun stuff. So that took me down memory lane. So thank you for that. Yes, I originally grew up in a town called Elmont, New York. It's right outside of Queens. So very familiar with the tri-state area. I have a bunch of cousins that have gone to school in Connecticut quite a bit. So I was familiar with I-95 and going up and down that quite a bit. So when I was playing basketball in high school, getting recruited and all of that, the coach at the time, Jessica Smith, she did a really good job recruiting. I mean, she was really consistent. She was one of the first people to show that interest in me, as I was playing basketball. And I knew I wanted to sign early because the recruiting process is just so tiring and exhausting, especially, when you're 18, trying to figure this all out. So I came up there at the time for a official visit. And I love the campus because you get a traditional college campus vibe. I love New England a little bit. Living in New York, you don't get that too much. And, in New Haven and in Connecticut, there's, the seasons and all of that stuff. So I came up here in the fall. I wanted to go to a school with football, and they just started the football program back up again. The Blue Field, there was a lot of excitement around that. And then the team chemistry at the time, it was just so fantastic. Everyone was like a really big family. The team, the coaches and everything like that was really, really connected. And that's something that was important to me. And I knew I didn't want to go to a really big school because I don't like crowds like that. So, having a close-knit family environment was really important. So those were some of the reasons. I mean, it was close. I could be far enough from home that my parents weren't, around all the time, but enough to get back there. Because I think I visited Adelphi and a few others, and those were just 20 minutes away. I was like, we're going to need a little bit more space here. So it worked out really well.
What was the basketball team like when you played? It wasn't all that long ago you were here at UNH, but I know you had some bad years and a real good year at the end.
Yeah. So, yeah, it actually, we came in and we didn't do as well as we thought we were going to do when we first started. I came in with 4 other freshmen. And it was weird because the way our recruiting was set up, we were heavy underclassmen and then no juniors at the time and then all seniors. So there was maybe, some chemistry and some different things. There was a lot of growing pains that we had to get through. And as, all athletes know, trying to corral that freshman class and get them on board can be difficult at the time. So we had a bit of a struggle the first 2 years that we played, and we had quite a few injuries, honestly. A lot of ACLs were lost. I think the first 2 years, I think we had 6 ACL injuries.
Wow. Really?
Yeah, it was really bad. Yeah, and so, at that point, it can get really difficult. And we just, not only is that physically kind of traumatizing, it also is emotionally traumatizing, because when someone goes down, you get real nervous. So there's that. And then I think my sophomore year, we started a new system of offense and a kind of new system of play under Coach Smith, and that kind of, and we'd all grown up, right? We got a lot better. We knew what we were doing. So I think we ended up in the middle of the pack my sophomore year with Jessica Smith. And then she left that summer and went off to Sacred Heart to coach there. And we got our new coach at the time, Coach Ty Grace. And I remember, and again, very traumatizing, like, we had a few coaching changes in our assistant coaches and stuff like that. So we were really nervous about who our new coach was going to be. And she ended up being, absolutely amazing. And I get jealous that I didn't get enough time with her. But she was, an amazing mentor, amazing coach. She brought a lot of fun back to the game. You kind of just get a fresh start, just by the nature of having a new coaching staff. And so that year we did really well. We made it to the NCAA tournament for the first time in a while. And then the year after I graduated, the girls killed it and did an amazing job making it to the Elite Eight. So just a story to tell and a testament to, our ladies and our commitment to greatness and, moving the program forward. So something that I'm really proud of.
So how did you go from basketball to football?
I don't know. So oddly enough, so I grew up in a really Caribbean family. Both my parents are Jamaican. They're Jamaican immigrants. So we're really into soccer and track and field. And so I grew up playing both of those sports, and then I had an older brother who ended up playing basketball. So I just did everything my brother did. But football was never really in my, in my toolbox of sports exactly. So I had spent a few years after I finished graduate school at a small agency called Advantage, which is a sister agency to Octagon Sports Marketing. So we're a sports marketing agency, and I did a lot of work in college football and college basketball in the marketing space. And then I'd done it for quite a while, and you learn a little bit of the kind of the real nuances of marketing and target audience and the purchase channel and like all of those different things. But I knew that I wanted to do a little bit more, and I've always been an advocate for athletes. Particularly at the time, my experience was in college, as a college athlete. So I was always an advocate for, college athletes and that transition after you're done playing, and what does your life look like after that, and all those things. And so I knew I wanted to do a little bit more in that space. And then, we were coming up on a time where the NFL was just in the forefront of a lot of conversations that were really important around social justice and all those different things, with Colin Kaepernick taking a knee and all that stuff during it was 2017 season. So I was really moved by that, and really it was something that just, I felt it in my soul. And I didn't even know that I didn't even know about the NFLPA exactly. I mean, I knew it existed because it had to, but I didn't really know about it. So I had always wanted to move to DC. I thought it was a great city. Again, close enough for home, but not home. So I as much as I love Connecticut, when you're young, you're in your 20s, you kind of want a little bit more city life. So I wanted to move to DC, and it honestly must have been like God. I'm 100% sure it was a blessings from God that my Indeed came up. Like, this is how basic it was. Indeed notification that there was an opening for an NFLPA position in player services and player marketing. And so, I did my due diligence, looked at the job description, had a friend that wasn't even really that close of a friend at the time, who had worked at Octagon as well, and now was at the PA. Had some conversations with him about, the role and learning a little bit more about that. Did the interview process, and I would like to say the rest is history, right?
And I'm going to take you back before there's so much good stuff to talk about here.
Yeah.
But running track, and I'm kind of a track fan. What were your events?
Oh my gosh. So I ran the 400. I was always the anchor in our relays. And then I did a bunch of sprints. So I was like pretty fast.
Sure.
So that actually helped a lot in basketball. And I used to know, not to toot my own horn, but I definitely was always killing my my fitness tests and all that.
What I was really fishing for, I just had a feeling you might run the 400, which is, I think, the ultimate of all athletic endeavors, especially throw the hurdles in there. But I don't know that there's anything as glorious or as gut-wrenching as a pure 400-meter sprint.
It's good. It's good time.
So anyway, let's get back to, I couldn't help but ask that.
Yeah, no problem.
Learn from that to apply to what you do today.
So I think that I actually told this story to some of our interns the other day. And when I mentioned earlier how we had a lot of torn ACLs when I was playing basketball, and I was one of them. And I remember going home for the summer. I had torn my ACL maybe like February-ish, and going home for the summer a little bit. I was actually interning at Octagon that summer, and I was trying to do my rehab. And you're doing it at home by yourself with nobody there to tell you what to do. Yeah. So it requires a lot more determination and self-will and all those different things. And I must have been complaining to coach about something, about maybe not having the resources or the time or something like that about my, my recovery. And she said to me, Ayana, no one is going to care about you getting better more than you. So don't think that Foggy is going to be here emailing you and being working out. No one's going to be doing that. Like, you're the driver of this. So if you want to get better, you will. If you don't, you don't. And boy, let me tell you, she shut me right up. And I have tried to, that lesson has permeated through everything that I do. That I am the driver of this. I'm the driver of my development. I'm the driver of my career. I'm the driver of where, the good that I want to see in the world. And if I want something, go right ahead and ask, or figure out how to get it done. And, ask the right questions and utilize the people around you for assistance, of course, but our life is what we make it. So, so those are definitely some of the lessons that I learned.
I like it.
Great to hear Foggy's name on the podcast. Ayana, he was one of our first guests a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
I love that. Foggy's the best.
Yeah, he is. He is. So when you tell this story, as you told the story to the interns the other day, what was their reaction?
I think that they appreciate the realness to it. And I think that sometimes with, younger generations, there may be this expectation that things are bestowed to them or you are owed something, and that's never the case. And so what I'm really adamant about with particularly our interns or just developing people in general is that I am here to help you. Like, as much as you are, working with me or for me, there's a responsibility I have to teach you as well. And so, but I'm not going to teach you until you ask me. I'm not going to do what you need me to do until you ask me for it. So take the time to work within yourself to figure out what it is that you want. What do you want from an experience? What's your end goal? How do you want to feel after you've completed something? And then let's go from there. What skills do you want to attain while you're interning with us? Who do you want to talk to? And that's my responsibility. And then if I don't do it, then you need to follow up with me and you need to make sure that I do it. So, they are open to that and they take that with stride. And, I think that it's something that I see them get better at, each and every time. So, hopefully they appreciate it.
So you go from UNH to Octagon to the NFLPA. How long have you been at the PA and what are your specific responsibilities there?
Yes, I've been at the PA for 2.5 years. So it feels like just yesterday. Weirdly enough, it's also a very good story. I started at the PA a week before the Minneapolis Super Bowl. And I was in the office for like 2 days and then flew into Minneapolis to get started at work. And I didn't know what work meant at the time. So I was walking into the conference room and just meeting my coworkers for the first time. They're like, who is this girl? And I was so nervous. And since then, it has been one of the most amazing roller coasters of my life. I've learned so much. I work with some amazing, amazing people. And then working for the PA in itself, the essence of our existence is a labor union. So we fight for the rights of athletes on the field, but also off of the field. And so when you're working for an organization whose main, function is the betterment and the empowerment and the progress of a group of people, that's fantastic. And that's something to be proud about. So everything that we do have our players in mind. Everything that we work on and try to improve on are just to make things more efficient. Even the smallest things, like, this is so trivial, but we do a lot of player marketing stuff. So I work on the marketing side of our work and working with players on doing different social media campaigns, endorsement agreements, commercials or content shoots and stuff like that. And so after all that work that we do, we still have to make sure the player gets paid, right? So some of our work is so trivial to the point where it's like, I need this paperwork now so that we can pay you via deposit versus us paying you a check and you losing it. And so some of the times it's as trivial as that. But in a way that gets our guys paid faster, they get their money, they can file their taxes, they do what they need to do. So small things like that. And then there's a lot of the bigger work that we do around our events. We do a lot of stuff around the draft, and it's most certainly one of my favorite events to work, where we have a bunch of guys come out, 30 to 40 draft eligible players on top of the NFL invite. So we might insert another group of players. They come out with their families and their moms and their sisters and grandmas, and we just have them there for a couple of days and treat them to some awesome experiences where they can learn about the PA, our family, what we can do to help them and serve them throughout their career. We have dinners and events for them, and we bring in, active and former players to talk to them about branding and marketing and leveraging their platform. And that's some of the stuff that I really appreciate the most, being able to make tangible differences and giving them the resources they need for their career.
Some of that stuff probably came natural to you based on what your degrees were in and so on and so forth. And some of these young men didn't major in the type of things that you did. And I'm sure it takes a little bit for them to adapt to what you might even call having to promote themselves. That doesn't come natural to everyone.
Absolutely. You see it a little bit more nowadays with the emergence of social media and typically a lot more involved in their branding from a social media perspective. But then there's so much more to it. And so a lot of the time, if I have a deal for a player, it's taking it to them and their agent and their rep and walking them through it and why it could be important, whether there's a charitable component involved that can be great for PR, or we can get you merch credits and you can use that for your camps over the summer, different things like that to make them see the value in some of these skills and some of this stuff, so that it can really blend into what they're trying to do for themselves, as a whole, and what their brand is looking like. So we spend a lot of time surveying our guys on what their interests are, and using that information to really lead us into new business conversations about things that make sense. We spend a lot of time on the phone with their marketing reps and their agents. Just what are the guys doing, with COVID and quarantine? Like, we did it's something as simple as for Father's Day. We worked with our communications team to put together videos of the players working out with their kids. And that's what they're doing now at home, or doing all these different things. So those are small things that we can do to just, again, lend to the notion that these athletes are more than just football players, and have a lot of other interests and stuff like that as well.
This is the Dr. Z and J.W podcast, brought to you by our presenting sponsor, the Pink Clover Foundation. Our guest today is Ayana Duncanson, who played basketball at the University of New Haven, got her master's degree and bachelor's degree there, and now works for the NFLPA. Ayana, you just mentioned the coronavirus, and of course you're working from home. We're all working from home now. What is the coronavirus, since the coronavirus hit back in March, what has that been like for you, and what's it been like for the NFL Players Association?
Yeah, so I think that it has been really interesting, to say the least. From a personal perspective, I think today is like one of the third times I've put on an actual outfit for that. But I think that there's a lot to weigh in and juggle. It's unknown. You have the unknowns of what the world is going to be. But then also now I have a lot more time. So I can do a lot of this. I can have conversations with, former, mentees or interns and kind of do a little bit more of that. I can, really sit down and think about the impact I want to have, the career I want to have. I can do a lot of that stuff, but then I can also sit and think about ways that we can be better. And, implement different initiatives and different programs, within our, our working system to just be better and move certain things forward. And then I think also at the PA, or I can't speak for PA specifically, NFLPI, so that's the marketing and licensing subsidiary of the PA, so the really revenue driving entity behind the union. But that's really interesting too, because we are connected to a variety of sponsors and partners. We work with, if you think about it, we work with EA and Madden. Corona couldn't be better for them in a weird way. Everyone's playing video games all day.
Yep.
So that's great. And then you have a lot of our licensees are apparel companies. And it's well, who's out here actually buying things right now? So it really depends on what angle you're looking at. But our job is just to, be flexible, to be, thought leaders in the space, and try to, see how we can continue to support our licensees and our partners, no matter what. So that even if that is just ideating around, efficient ways to use marketing spends on players, or, creating full-blown content and marketing proposal ideas that involve a variety of things for different initiatives. So it's been challenging, but I think it's a good challenge. I think it's been really interesting because you have to relearn how to think in this area. Things that are off limits are not off limits anymore. Things that you're completely are off limits. So it really requires you to have a super innovative mind, and really collect as much thoughts and ideas as possible. So I just try to stay focused on that. I think that was a long-winded way of answering the question.
No, it's a good answer.
Yeah, that was good stuff. When you said, nothing's off limits, I've noticed that too, is while we look at higher education and college athletics and what we do with and for our student athletes, I've taken my cue from President Kaplan and our provost, Mario Gabbery, and said, this year, nothing's the same. You've got to think differently and throw some of the old ideas out of the window. And that goes for the NCAA, the NE10, our own organization, don't live by the same old rules. They don't fit right now. It's in some ways it's kind of fun. If you're a little bit of a maverick, it can be a little bit fun.
Yeah, I welcome the challenge, and that's what I try to think of it as. A challenge can all kind of start off, figure out, but it just takes a little extra work.
Yeah.
With regard to the coronavirus as well, I mean, everyone wants to keep the players safe. How is the PA trying to keep their players safe? These are some of the best athletes in the world, and we look at them as supermen because they are in some ways, but no one is immune from COVID-19. So, what steps is the PA doing to try to keep its players safe?
Absolutely. So that's our number one priority, our player safety. And unfortunately, I don't get paid enough money to know exactly what they're doing, but I know that they're having a ton of conversations. I know that the priority is, again, player safety and doing it the right way. Football in its purest form is not technically an essential business. So with that mind frame, how can we go back to play and go back to play in a way that is safe and healthy for everyone involved? Because it's not just the players, it's their families, it's the people that it takes to run a game. So they are working really, really hard. I know that they are. So we'll see. I find out the same time that you guys find out. So I'll be tuned in on Twitter or ESPN looking for the updates myself.
So you have no inside information on whether there's going to be a season or not, is what you're telling us.
I do not.
I'm just glad to ask somebody else that question. I get asked by neighbors and family and friends all the time, hey, are you going to play? Are you going to play? And I gave it to J.W, before you came out of the green room. It's day by day and it's week by week. And it changes day by day and week by week.
I hear you.
You mentioned, Ayana, your marketing background and branding background. How does that play into the name, image, and likeness, which is going to happen in college sports sooner rather than later? Many states have passed legislation already. The NCAA has gone to Congress to say, help us with this. What is the NFL's role in it, and what type of role do you have with it with regard to the Players Association, and how does that play into name, image, and likeness?
Yes. So I mean, man, if there's one seat I'm happy to not be sitting in, it's that one. I have no idea how this is all going to work. I'm excited to see it, though. I am really excited. I think it is, again, I've always been an advocate for athletes. Now more than ever, these kids have so much influence and so much, branding already that I'm really interested to see how this all works out. And then, as the PA, in theory, we just get a guy when they, declare themselves eligible for the draft. And, that may mean now that these players come into the league with endorsement deals already and stuff like that. So that'll be really interesting to see how we manage that. And I'm sure our agents and rep community are very excited because, they can really get to work with players, as they go through the college ranks and kind of help them get prepared. So hopefully, in all honesty, maybe by the time they get to me, they're well versed in the world of marketing and branding, and it's just a matter of getting them more opportunities. But I'm excited to see how it works out. I think that it is, really something to watch and really something to be. I'm just excited to see how it goes.
It just struck me as you deal with that. You deal with every player in every position across the league, and you see it at college level. You see it at the NFL. Different positions get more attention, and it'll be. I'm sure you deal with certain issues there with what I'd call the high-profile positions versus, let's say, the lineman. And I'm sure there are times you're having to kind of almost coach the lineman in more proactive in some of these areas, and maybe keeping some of the other guys, a little more directed.
Yeah. So that's really, I'm sure you bring that up. So one of the most important metrics that our department kind of, manages itself on is unique deals. So we work on behalf of all of our members. So we want to get as many deals as we can for as many athletes as we can. So when we are thinking about marketing, initiatives or creating research lists for clients, there are ways that we can think about it so that we can really diversify our offering and make sure that we are giving a breadth of options. And, I think that, again, each player has their own story, has their own, brand to them. And we just try our best to learn as much about as many of our guys as we can and utilize that information to serve it out to prospective partners and, brand teams so that they are as well informed as us and can try to see the value in your linemen and, as opposed to, just the quarterbacks. But it's fun. And I think that when you think about our membership and our players, they're eager, they are willing and able and want to be involved. So we just try to, be strategic about how we make that happen. And that's also, a really fun part of my job too, is trying to come up with new ideas to get players involved, such as, I think we were talking earlier, we have our Celebrity Family Feud episodes coming up. So that
there we go.
Really fun for us, which is totally out of our normal scope of business, but we're able to do that, and we can work with players on different stuff like that. So
it sounded like when you and J.W. and I were kind of having fun before the show that you're heavily involved in that. So tell us a little bit about that, how you got started in that endeavor and kind of what it's taken to get it to the screen.
Absolutely. So it's the brainchild of our VP, our department VP, and our communications director. They've, over the last few years, so this will be the 6th year that we've done this show. So it's evolved a little bit through the years, but our team works very heavily with the production team at ABC to procure the players that are involved, to create the themes of the show. This upcoming show on Sunday is going to be Hall of Famers versus Rising Stars. So we like to kind of have that balance of like the old heads and the young guns, and try to like have them go against each other. Those are always fun. But then those are ways that we can, and a lot of the times we have players that are knocking down our doors to get involved because they grew up watching Family Feud with their mom or their aunt or their grandma. So they're like really passionate about it. So we actually shot 2 shows this year. So this one on Sunday is Hall of Famers Rising Stars, and I think in August we're gonna have another show coming up. But yes, we're really involved in that. We work with the players and their agents to get them the opportunity. We work with the production team to get all the guys flown out there, and they usually come with this year we filmed it on Valentine's Day. So I came with their wife or girlfriend, and we host them for an evening reception, and work with getting them ready for the show, and we do little fun quizzes with them in the in the green room and stuff to make sure they're ready. But it is so much fun, and they really like it. So sometimes you have to do an opportunity, an appearance or something, like they're signing autographs for an hour. They're like, come on, like I don't want to do this. But when they get to do Celebrity Feud, they love it. So I am so excited. It's, again, probably right underneath draft is one of my favorite events to do. But it is, and we work really hard, getting the right players to be involved, that exuberant personality. So we have quite a few good ones. Michael Irving is on there, our Hall of Fame team, Chris Carter, Orlando Pace, Kevin Green, Bruce Smith. So that's the Hall of Fame team.
Wow.
Ours team is Darius Leonard from the Colts, Damian Williams from the Chiefs, Marlon Humphrey Ravens, Cortland Sutton from the Broncos, Aaron Jones from the Packers.
Wow.
I got to ask you, as I see you talk about that, and you light up, and you're so excited, and J.W. and I've been asking about your career in college and post college and this and that. it just kind of struck me. I think it was Matthew McConaughey who put this notion out there, and I might have it wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. But what would he say to a young Matthew McConaughey? What would you say to a young Ayana? Let's say you're 10 or 12. What advice would you give her, knowing what you've accomplished thus far? What would you tell her looking forward into her future? What do you wish you to know, type of thing? You go any direction you want with this.
Oh man. So 2 things came up. One was your voice means something. You have something to say, and people will listen to you. Yeah. And then the other one is like you are more than enough. And I think those 2 things blend together because there sometimes is this notion that, you know, particularly as a woman in sports, and then a Black woman in sports, that your voice is marginalized or your voice is not as important as others. And that is not the case at all. Absolutely not. You have more than enough skills and knowledge and wherewithal to be a part of conversations and have something important to say, and people will listen to you. And then, you know, this notion about being enough, because it's intimidating and you can feel a lot of self-doubt or insecurities at times, particularly when you're stepping out on faith or you're pitching an idea or something like that. And it just, there are so many instances where I struggle with, you know, feeling confident about stuff, but, you know, you are more than capable. You're more than enough. You belong here. So act like it.
I liked it. My dad used to say that. Act like you belong.
Yeah.
No, he would take it to another level, and I talk about it a lot on this show. He's been gone for a couple of years now, but we'd leave the house for, I don't know, the morning, the evening, whatever it was. He'd say, act like you know something. And that was a loaded statement when he said that. Act like you know something. He would say it to my siblings, my sister, my brother, my cousins. You know, when you said that, it just struck
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually really funny. So the one thing my mom always used to say to me, or I wouldn't say she used to say to me, but this notion, I think that's also definitely carried through my career, is when I was younger, like I mentioned earlier, I come from a Caribbean household, West Indian household. So if you know anything about that, they are very strict and they are very adamant about education. It's very important. So I remember I would grow up in elementary school and middle school and stuff, and a bunch of my friends would, you know, get good grades in class, and then their parents would give them like $1 or go buy them sneakers or rewarded for doing, you know, getting good grades. And I used to get good grades all the time, and my mom would never do any of that stuff with me. I mean, she was like, okay, whatever. And so I remember I asked her, I'm like, well, you know, like this person gets, you know, money, and this person gets, you know, sneakers and clothes. And she said, Ayana, like, that's exactly what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to get good grades. You're supposed to be, you know, doing this. You're not going to get rewarded for that.
I agree with your mom.
My parents did too. I was never rewarded for getting good grades.
I told my kids, we expect you to do that.
Yeah, that's the expectation. So don't think like you're going to get rewarded for that. Like, not at all. And so I also, you know, that's something that's stuck with me as well.
So I got to ask you this. Sorry, J.W. I'm on a roll here.
Keep going, buddy.
One of my favorite authors has a Caribbean background as well, Malcolm Gladwell. Have you much of his stuff? You know, Blink, Tipping Point, etc. I highly recommend it. And some of the things you're talking about, you have to read him for a while before you realize that's his background, and so the things you're saying really resonate with his own.
Yes, absolutely. I will definitely read some. I've been picking up reading a lot more since quarantine. So I would definitely check that out. That's awesome.
Yeah. I'll recommend some of them offline when we're talking.
Too. I love a good book recommendation.
Yeah. All right.
Ayana, I want you to tell Dr. Z the story that you and I chatted about the other day online. Tell us about the unique connection you have with our buddy Miles McPherson.
Oh my gosh, you guys. So I was prepping for this and I was just going through and watching some of your last few episodes. And so I saw Miles and I was watching all of that and I was like, wait a minute. Oh, he's a former NFL player? Like, first of all, I should maybe know who he is. And so I was like, oh, okay, wow. Like, as the, I work for the PA, like I should, reach out. And I was like, wait, there's a former NFL player that went to the University of New Haven? I also didn't know that even existed. But then so I looked him up and then I realized that he's from like my area of New York, the Queens, Long Island area. So I was like, really? And I don't know him. So then I Googled him more and I was like, where did he go to high school? So he went to Malvern High School and which I think they used to do I played basketball and they did a summer basketball camp and tournament there every summer. So I've spent a lot of time at that school. Then oddly enough, my friend at the time, I went to prom with him and he went to Malvern. So I went to Malvern High School's prom, senior prom in my senior year of high school. So I was like, oh, that's so funny. And then I was like, this sounds familiar because when he was doing the interview with you guys, he had mentioned he had a brother who also played for, played in the NFL, played for Syracuse. And it was like, I think that rings a bell. So I went through my emails and I'd realized that almost maybe a year ago or so, I was invited and I went to a book club like party where his brother was talking about his new book.
Really?
At the time, I remember being like, oh, wow, this is so cool. Because I got it from a friend who was I didn't even get it through work. I had a friend that was working for the organization that was putting on this book event with Miles's brother. And so I ended up just sharing it with our former players department. I'm saying, hey, there's this former player of ours who's in town doing this book thing. Like, I don't know what you guys want to do with it, but FYI, and I'm going to attend. So when I saw that his brother went to UNH, I was like, this is crazy. First of all, I was like, I should know these people, and I don't. So I would absolutely, it was just bizarre to me. I was like, oh, this is a really small world.
Well, Miles' brother Miles was, arguably the best player we've ever had at UNH. And yeah. Miles' brother was.
It's Don, right? That's his name, Don McPherson? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, McPherson, correct.
What was the book about? Was it his life or?
No, it was about, I forget the name of it, but it was about the football players and I think, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think it was more so about masculinity in football and, making sure that we are representative of the women in our lives and stuff like that. Yeah. Something like throw like a girl or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Miles, of course, has gone on to found and run the Rock Church in San Diego, which is a mega church. Miles has been at the forefront of social justice for years. He's written a lot of books himself. The most recent one was called The Third Option. Miles talked about it when he was on the show last month. Ayana, bringing it back to the NFLPA, because this is a big deal now to you guys as well. I mean, the coronavirus is a big deal. Name, image, and likeness is a big deal. But I don't know there's a bigger deal overall, and that's going to continue for years and years and years, than social justice. What is the NFLPA's role in social justice, and what's the message to the players?
Yeah, so I think that the NFLPA is in a unique situation where our players are one, on the forefront of conversation and have been in the forefront of this conversation for quite a bit. And our main goal as their union is to support them and to amplify them. How can we amplify their voices? How can we help educate them and get them resources and connect the dots? A lot of it is connecting the dots to things. Hey, I'm interested in this, and can I connect you with the the politician or the government official in that area, in, you know, where you grew up or where you work. Like, we are just here to help connect the dots. I don't know if we have the answers on how to fix things, but our goal is to really support our players and what they're doing. I'm having conversations with them about what's going on. You know, how are they feeling? There's obviously a ton that's in this conversation, but, you know, how can we help amplify their voice and give them a platform to speak about what's important for them? And that's, you know, that's how we are trying to play our role. In addition, you know, we provide resources for a variety of things. So, you know, being able to help them in this area is really important. Something that we're trying to put some more, you know, programming and stuff like that around. So.
You know, you want to make this timely. When we do this show, I keep the phone right here by my laptop just in case Rob or John have something that we need to be aware of. And my phone kept lighting up. I'm like, what's going on? And I try not to look at it. As you're talking about that, my oldest son is so excited because the Chiefs have signed their quarterback to a 10-year contract, right? You know,
Yep.
being a Chiefs fan, you know, everything I've seen about this young man is as good as it gets. And people in Kansas City just love him. There's neat stories about him and how he treats others. And, you know, just, you know, he and his mom and how they've been, you know, get into the city. But, you know, so here I am talking to someone who does this for a living, and to show you how pertinent it is, you know,
Yeah.
my son that's 23 should be studying for the CPA exam right now, is more interested in that than he is about his studying. I think.
I saw that come through earlier today. Yeah, I didn't get to look into the details of it yet, but 10 years, man, that's solid.
Yeah.
Deserved. Pat is amazing.
Yeah.
I think when you have a superstar like Patrick Mahomes, I think you lock him up for as long as you possibly can.
Yeah. But, you know, and he's not just, I mean, he's he might be the most fun player I've ever watched, you know, but what he does off the field and just how he makes others feel so at ease. And I can't say enough about the stories that go around Kansas City about the type of person he is and what he does for that community, but just being just a good guy.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the times, because they play football, a lot of our players are seen as these supernatural, superhuman beings.
Yeah.
But you guys are literally just like you and I. And so, you know, you have, you know, a person like Patrick Mahomes, we're like, that's his character. That is who he is. He's a good person. And, you know, there's so many of our players that are like that. And, you know, they are literally just like you and I. And I think that's what makes them even more exciting because, you know, for instance, I'm doing some work now with Myles Garrett on a particular opportunity. And like, he's into poetry and, you know, stuff like that. And, you know, those are the really interesting tidbits that we get to learn and really understand about our members. And I appreciate it so much because they are just amazing to work with, and they are so impassioned, so you know, so determined and focused on being the best they can on and off of the fields, and really starting to come into their own with their voices. You've seen so much of it between, you know, working with More Than a Vote. A bunch of our players are now working with LeBron James and More Than a Vote. You know, our players are doing a ton. You know, they're always doing different players' tribunes, articles, and talking about different things. They have such dynamic stories. When you think about, you know, the Griffin brothers and that story, and, you know, the draft picks of the years, I mean, wow. I just get really, really excited thinking about it, and just so eager to support them in whatever way that can be. And if that's, you know.
So, you know, what's fun, Ayana, is I watch you and I think of my own children as they approach their forthcoming careers. And when I say my own children, I can't help but think of the nearly 500 student athletes we'll have with us this fall, and those that I've been a part of since I was 21 years old. You know, my first job. To see someone like you, that it's obvious you don't just like your job, it seems like you love your job and you're excited about it. And that's just what you wish for all young professionals.
Yeah.
You have what you're doing. And I hope, I want everyone to watch our podcast all the time, but really I want our student athletes and our students on campus on some of these podcasts to really lock in. And this one, I want to make sure our student athletes get a chance to hear from you. And you've already spoken to them, on our Mental Health Mondays, as Miles has and some others. But I don't know that you got to share this quite in this depth and detail. And
Yeah.
I just hope they tune in and
Absolutely.
get
No,
to
I
watch.
appreciate that. And I think that what you're doing is so important. I think representation is also extremely important. You don't know that something exists until you see it, and it becomes attainable, and it becomes, more easily accessible. And that is a part of, something that I'm extremely passionate about, making sure that people can see what I'm doing. And not that I'm doing anything ridiculously amazing. I'm not out here curing much of anything, but I think I just try to walk in my purpose and what's important to me. And I try to implore, everyone else to do the same thing. We are only as good to others if we are good to ourselves, and making a conscious effort to really understand who we are, what we want to do, and how we want to impact people. And that may be studying for the CPA and accounting and really teaching how to manage their money. And that's great. And you should do that with as much passion as you can. But sports has just been the only thing that I've, it's just ingrained in who I am. And if I can use it to have conversations to move, change forward and to inspire others, that's really all I'm trying to do.
I have one final question for you, Ayana, and then unless Dr. Z has anything else, we'll let you go. You've been very gracious with your time here today on the Dr. Z and J.W. podcast. We certainly appreciate it. We know how busy you are, especially with training camps hopefully around the corner at the end of this month. At the beginning of the interview, I mentioned that you are a UNH alumni board member. What do you like about the direction the school is heading?
I love it. I've been on the board for almost a year and a half now. And I think that it's clear that there is dedicated and invested interest in moving this school forward and having it reach its potential. And I think its potential is really endless, to be honest, but it's been amazing to be a part of. People, there's so many dedicated faculty and staff that work day in and day out to think of innovative ways to keep our alumni connected and to provide, different resources and services for our members and, our students and our athletes. And I like to be a part of those conversations and just being able to provide my opinions or ideas where I can. And I've had conversations with a bunch of people on our alumni board and faculty about, very important things over the last couple of weeks around particularly social, justice and stuff, and how we can be a part of that conversation in a positive way. But, I think it's important, and UNH is very special to me. It is, I always say it with pride when, people ask me where I went to school. And, I think that it holds a very special place in my heart, a lot of great memories, so many amazing friends and family that have come from UNH. Even if I think about it now, a lot of the ladies that I played with, we were getting together for a reunion in a couple of weeks to see each other. We haven't seen each other in so long. And I think also what's amazing, as I've, since I've graduated, is seeing my counterparts, my peers, go through and walk through their purpose and their lives and their, things that they're doing now. And if you think about just my friend group alone, I have nurses and police officers and lawyers, and I have fitness coaches and entrepreneurs, just within a few of my friends alone. And that's something to be really, really proud of. We're not just producing, athletes and stuff, we're producing hopefully really good human beings. And it's nice to have UNH as a part of that story.
Well said. I'm all set, Dr. Z. Any other questions for Ayana?
You kidding me? I'm not gonna. Those last two answers, I want to just have them tape recorded, but we do. So,
Yeah.
we can just hit replay over and over. But thank you so much for joining us. And
Thank you so much for having me, you guys. I really appreciate it.
yeah,
Thanks, Ayana. We'll see you soon. That's Ayana Duncanson,
that was fun.
graduate of
Thank
University
you.
of New Haven, bachelor's degree, graduate degree as well. Played basketball now with the NFLPA. We'll be watching Celebrity Family Feud Sunday night at 8:00. Check your local listings. We'll be thinking of you, Ayana, when we watch the show.
Yes, thank you. It'll be a fun one, I promise.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
As we reset here, just want to remind everyone the Dr. Z and J.W podcast is presented by the Pink Clover Foundation. The Pink Clover Foundation, both a partner and a friend to the University of New Haven. The Pink Clover Foundation honors the late Colleen Sorbello, who passed away in September of 2017 after a 4-year battle with breast cancer. Colleen's husband, Sam, played football at UNH and has been one of our university's biggest benefactors. To support the Pink Clover Foundation, please visit pinkcloverfoundation.org. All right, Dr. Z, as we get a chance to wrap up our conversation with Ayana, and before we're going to bring Broccoli Rob out here in a minute, but I wanted to get your take on that. The thing I took away from that, and there's so much to take away from what Ayana said, is you're the driver of your own life, right? Basically, I'm paraphrasing what she said, but you are basically in control of your life and your destiny. And I think that's great advice for any of us, whether it's the intern she's telling that story to, or people who are further on in their career. It's a great reminder of how much control we do have over our lives in a world where often we feel like we don't have a lot of control.
I feel kind of guilty at times because I get to talk to a lot of our guests offline.
Yep.
So I kind of knew what to expect with Ayana, but what you hope is on this podcast that the real personality will come forward, and it did. This is, she's really an interesting and creative and exciting person to talk to, and I think that just showed through. But as you picked up on that quote, the one that I don't have a notebook in front of me, they're all within 4 or 5 feet, and I don't want to get up and disturb the show. She said, walking in your own purpose. I'd never heard it said that way before. And that's something that I'm going to take away from this and share it with young people going forward. That's a line that I'm sorry, Yana, I'm gonna steal it from you, borrow it from you. And I really appreciate you sharing so much today, but that stuck with me and will for a long time.
I know we have Broccoli Rob, our producer, Rob Thompson, waiting in the wings. He is at his home in Saratoga. We'll see if we can bring him in here. I know it's been a while since we've seen him. Rob knows Ayana very well. Broccoli Rob, it's great to see you. How are you, first of all, and what do you think of our interview with Ayana?
I'm doing fantastic. As you can see, we get 10 perfect days a year up in upstate New York. That's all we're allowed, and today's one of them, so I'm outside. Let's take advantage of it. I just to unload some of this, just the nuggets of gold that she downloaded on us. She is obviously, one of our stars as an alum that came through our program, and she should know that there's over 25 NFL players that came through New Haven, and 2 head coaches. She should know that. So I'm going to get on her about that one. The one thing I take away from her, and I know you guys want to wrap it up, and I think anybody that watched this, reach out to her on LinkedIn, connect with her, right? Just connect with her. Use this as also a networking platform. So Miles reach out to, Foggy reach out to. Don't reach out to President Kaplan, but everybody else you can reach out to. The one thing I took away from there is that there's many doors into the sports industry, and it's not always the right door that you think it may be at the time. It may not always be that team or the league or the college athletic department for your first job. She worked for a marketing agency on activation for sponsors. She understood the other side. She went into it understanding services, client services. She understood that part of it. That then opened up that next door to her, for her with the NFLPA. And if you heard her say it, she didn't know what that was at first. And she discovered it. She discovered her purpose. She discovered where she fit in to the industry, and she went all in on it. And the fact that her parents raised her the way her and her brothers and sisters that they did, with laying the foundation of earning everything, earning it. And then that's the reason why she played 4 years for college basketball, came back from an ACL injury. It just speaks volume. And I got to be honest with you, that right there is the reason why I always hire female student athletes like that. Instant. Don't need to know where you went to school. Don't need to know what you studied. Don't need to know your grade point average. If you were a college student athlete, especially female in the event business, which was I was in, that there's no other questions asked. Anyway, so she's a rising star and a great human being, and we're lucky that she went through our program. That's it.
Well said.
Bye
Well
from
said.
the backyard.
Well said, Brocky Rob. Thanks, buddy. Dr. Z, final thoughts before we say goodbye for this episode.
Boy, that was a download by Broccoli. Nothing after that. You know, the book that I was fishing for in my mind that I will share with Ayana, but anyone else, is Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. And of course, he's done Tipping Point and Blink and David and Goliath and so many others. But Tipping Point, anyone interested in leadership, it's uncommon paths to leadership. And he really makes you think. And at the end, it describes, I didn't know his family's history. At the end, it talks about his Caribbean family's history and how that's impacted his childhood in Canada and then what he currently does. And it's something that it makes you think about your own family history. And as he says, we stand on the shoulders of others. And talks about his parents and his grandparents, his grandfather in particular, and those that helped his grandfather, and so on and so forth. And I think any of us, I think most of us in America are children of immigrants at some point, and it's worth reading and reflecting on that and so many other topics, including I'll bait the hook with this because we may address it in a future podcast. What he calls redshirting. And that's starting young people to school at the age of 6 instead of 5. And it's predicated upon the Canadian Amateur Hockey Association and who the most successful young people are. And those who start later have greater success. And then that's a topic for another podcast, J.W.
Well, fortunately, we have plenty more coming our way, that's for sure. So we have not had a chance to do one in about a week and a half. It was good to be back with you again, Dr. Z. We'll see if we can, now that summer's here and, I'm beyond my Gilfried sport finance grad class, maybe we can start doubling up some of these podcasts and get caught up with everybody. Because there's a lot of people we want to have on, as we've talked about offline. So,
yes.
So it's
I'm
all in. Absolutely. Absolutely. We had a lot to talk about, both going on at the University of New Haven and our terrific graduates out there making a difference in the world, just as Ayana Duncanson is. She is truly, as Rob said, she is a rising star, much the way people like Patrick Mahomes in the NFL are stars or rising stars. And we are very, very lucky to have her as a member of the Charger family and Charger Nation. So our thanks again to Ayana Duncanson for joining us here on the Dr. Z and J.W. podcast. As always, our thanks to our presenting sponsor, the Pink Clover Foundation. For our executive producer, John Mays, for producer Brocky Rob Thompson, and for Dr. Z, I'm J-Dub. Thanks for watching the Dr. Z and J-Dub podcast. We'll see you next time.